Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of The Cover, a show where we share with all our viewers a sneak peek into the latest issue of your favorite Business Today magazine. Now, this is a special issue and therefore a very special show as well, where I'm going to be joined by a whole host of panelists and editorial experts and from the team and contributors of the new magazine, the latest issue, starting, of course, with Saurav Majumdar, the editor of Business Today magazine. I will also have with me Anand Adhikari, Managing Editor, BT Magazine. And also joining in will be Binu Paul, Senior Assistant Editor, who's also written the cover story this time around. We'll also be joined by many more experts. I will soon introduce all of those also with all of you. Sort of a very, very vibrant cover this time around. So would you want to start off by throwing some light into the cover design, and also why is it really important to discuss what is really happening in the food tech industry, the face off between the two food tech giants Zomato and Swiggy, and what the future looks like?
Yes, Sakshi, thank you very much for the introduction. I think basically what we wanted to do is we wanted to take a deeper look at this whole food tech face-off, which has been building up over time. What has happened is, if you remember, during the pandemic, that was one sector which really came to the rescue of all of us who were stuck at home. They've realized while there was enormous growth at that time, thanks to the pandemic, it is also there, there was also an issue of the average order value not going beyond a point. Because only food was not really working out in terms of margins, because there were very serious cost elements also attached to that. Whether it is in terms of discounts given to customers, whether it is in terms of incentives given to the riders, and all of that. So it was necessary, despite the high growth at that time, for these two players, the major players in the food tech business, to explore other avenues which were allied to their core business of food tech. That essentially meant that whether while Zomato was in the really powerful in the restaurant ecosystem and Swiggy in the delivery e-grocery ecosystem, they were then had to get into each other's territories, and that actually intensified the face-off. So we thought it was a very powerful story to tell. And talking of the cover which you mentioned, we really wanted to tell it through, because these are young startups in that sense. So we wanted to give it a sense of a graphic novel kind of a feel, which you see in the cover story with these two guys clashing with their vehicles.
So, Pino, let me come to you. I want to understand from you what has really come up in your research, and as the market really for quick grocery delivery hits up, who really has the edge over here and who will emerge as the winner between these two giants?
Yeah, hi, Sakshi. So, like Saurav mentioned, there were a few underlying challenges that both Swiggy and Zomato has been, facing for a long time now. The fundamental two challenges were, one is the average order value, which is in India is at least 5 to 6 times lower than what we have in the US or Europe market. The second one is the cost of delivery, and the challenge there is, both these companies were unable to utilize the delivery fleet effectively, because food delivery is a two-peak business for lunch and dinner, and rest of the day, the fleet are not used, fully, and that really makes an impact in their unit economics. In a nutshell, Swiggy has a very strong hyperlocal focus, and it is kind of nearing a maturity.
Yeah.
Versus a Swiggy, Zomato's approach of food, and which is still a very far from a maturity level.
Absolutely. So it's going to be a tough fight there between hyper-local focus and food focus right there. It's going to be an
That's true.
interesting watch how things develop from here. But let's also bring in some other major stories that have been covered in this cover issue as well. So let's talk about the big making of financial behemoth, the HDFC Bank merger. Anand Adhikari, managing editor, is with me on this, and he's written extensively in this issue as well. I want to understand from you, Anand. Now, the news definitely came in as a surprise, even though this matter was long in the offing. The stocks of these companies also surged very sharply to log sharp gains on the day of the news, but soon the rally fizzled out soon after. Now, is it because after the initial exuberance, the reality will hit, as creating of a financial giant perhaps may not be that easy?
Hi, Sakshi. On the proposed merger, the MD, Shashi Jagdishan said, elephants can dance as well. So size has its advantages, but size also brings in a lot of challenges. Now, if you look at the size, now HDFC banks will have a balance sheet of 25 lakh crore. SBI is around 48 lakh crore, and if you look at ICICI is around 13 to 14 lakh crore. And the entire loan book of this merged entity will be around 14 to 15 lakh crore. Now, even to grow at 20%, it will require more than close to 2 lakh crore of new loans. Now, that is going to be a big challenge. Third, if you look at the CASA ratio, the CASA has gone down. I mean, again, on the merged entity, if you see, from 45% to 37% something. Now, again, it's going to be a huge challenge to raise low-cost deposit, because every other bank is offering very high interest rate. I see a lot of challenges on the management side, on the cost of fund side, on the business side, going forward for the HDFC.
Okay, so Krishna Gopalan, Deputy Editor, Business Today magazine, also joins right in. It's going to be a very, very interesting issue to read, because on the one hand, you do have a food tech face-off going on, but in the entertainment industry, we're looking at mergers of competitions going on. So I want to ask you, Krishna, how are you looking at the coming together of PVR and Inox, the erstwhile competitors, now going to create this big multiplex monolith? And is it an aftermath of the lockdown and the rise of OTTs that has led to this big merger?
Yes, actually, let's get it completely clear here. This is really a marriage of compulsion. The entire business was completely decimated during the lockdown, because there were absolutely no movies that were released, shootings were stalled, and of course multiplexes were shut. So in one stroke, the entire supply chain, starting from production all the way to exhibition, was completely curtailed. Revenues took a huge beating. Both the companies were deep in the red, and that's only speaking of PVR and Inox. The story is pretty much similar for the rest of the exhibition industry as well. So it is pretty clear that barring a merger, there's absolutely no way the two of them could have survived on their own. So I think it's really a sensible decision, where they figured that if they're going to be fighting for the same share of the pie, it only made sense. And as you rightly said, if OTT is going to be there, it only made sense for two large players to come together and fight the common enemy, as opposed to standing apart and figuring out a way to deal with it.
All right, so from the entertainment industry, now let us move on to the auto sector. And Prerna Lidhu joins in. She's written a special report in this issue as well, and she's sharing with us how the fast-changing world of auto sector is here for us to see. Prerna, over to you. How are we looking at the auto sector really shaping up the future?
Hi, thanks Sakshi for having me, and you touched upon a very important point. Auto sector right now is at its once in a lifetime kind of a transformation because of the kind of tech changes we're seeing. There is a reason companies like Apple, Xiaomi, Sony, Honda, so many companies are investing in this tech together, and the face of the industry is just going to be transformational. For example, the CASE, CASE, connected, autonomous, shared and electric, is going to be a real thing, and all companies, be it mass products, be it premium luxury segments, are investing in it right now. So they'll have to think of multiple kind of technologies for multiple segments within India, because as we know, there's no one India that exists here. There's Bharat, there are different segments within India. So these auto companies will have to think of strategies to stay relevant in years to come.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Prerna, for sharing these insights on the auto sector. Of course, we are looking at things fast changing around us. Saurav, let me come to you for a wrap up of this entire session. A very, very interesting issue right there. We are looking at how several industries are at the cusp of transformational change right here. Could you sum up the entire issue for us?
Yes, I think Sakshi, you put it very correctly. All these stories, in a sense, are stories of transformation, right? If you look at Swiggy versus Zomato, each one is wanting to transform into something beyond pure food delivery. Each one is getting into the other space, and there will be a lot of action in that space. There is a transformation of a massive size in terms of HDFC Bank, which is now setting up a mega banking and financial services institution after the merger. There is a transformation of another very dramatic script being played out in that sense in the multiplex side, where the two of the largest players and fierce competitors have actually joined hands because of the pandemic eating into their revenues, and of course the threat from OTT. And then, of course, like Prerna said, there is this whole transformation going on, very dramatic one in the auto sector, where it's all about EVs and green and, the entire game plan now becoming that of a tech company at the center of a car. So I think, the technology is at the heart of many of these things. I think it's a fabulous time to be a journalist, if you ask me, because all of us are very, very keenly tracking at Business Today all of these developments, and will continue to do so in many, many days to come, and hopefully in future issues which we will discuss right here.
Thank you so much, Saurav, Krishna, Anand, Binu, and Prerna for sharing all these wonderful insights with all our viewers. With that, we come to a wrap up of this edition. Many, many thanks for tuning in onto this one.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.